I want to bring our next guest on here with us. Let's get a drum roll going. Let's get a buzzer. All right, Dan Nye, welcome to the Power Hour, man. It is awesome to have you here.
Hey, it's great to be here. I love your show, Luke. You put so much excitement in the stock market. It's fantastic.
Thanks, man. We say that this is a stock market show that has more ideas and more gimmicks than any other stock market show out there. That's what we're going for.
So, shall I just give you a quick backgrounder on the drivers behind kind of the electric vehicles and lithium-ion batteries? Is that the best way to go?
Yeah, I think so. And guys, if you're just tuning in, I previewed this a little bit earlier, but basically, Dan works in the world of supplying EVs and batteries, and he's basically going to take us through the supply chain, right? There's a lot more than just throwing out battery, and you know, saying, okay, I'm going to buy batteries. He's going to take us through the supply chain. I love the chat there. Dan, the EV guy. All right, so Dan, the floor is yours. Again, I think it's a super interesting market. You know, we sort of know it at a high level, I think, as a group. But I would really appreciate if you could take us through the intricacies of the EV supply chain and where we might be able to find some opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. So big picture, the market for EVs is exploding. So basically, you look at how many cars produced a year. It's about 90 million across the globe. So in 2019, 2.2 million EVs were produced. That rose to 3.1 million in 2020. By 2025, it's going to be 10 million. So you've got a big market. There's huge drivers for the materials, for the producers, for the battery makers. So I'm just going to walk you through who could really benefit from that. So, if I just go back to how a lithium-ion battery cell works, I'll make it real simple. So basically, a lithium-ion battery cell, which is the core to all kind of electric vehicles. Imagine just two ribbons of metal. One ribbon is a combination of lithium, cobalt, and nickel. The other ribbon is a combination of copper and graphite. You roll that up like
okay. Wait. So hold on. Wait. Let me just. So it sounds like we've got four materials that go into the batteries. You said it's lithium, copper, nickel, and graphite. Is that right?
Yeah, if you look on one side of the ribbon, you got nickel, cobalt, and lithium. And the other side, you've got graphite, and that's on a base of copper. You stick them together, you roll them up like a jelly roll. I think it's a jelly roll in the US. They call it Swiss roll in Europe. Okay. And that forms your battery, and it's about the same size as a AA battery. Now you take 7,000 of those and you stick them together, and that's what makes a Tesla battery cell. So it's a bunch of these small cells linked together. So the key thing is, how do you play it? And there's numerous ways you can play it. You can play it from the angle of the manufacturers. You can play it from the angle of the materials producers. You can play it from the angles of the battery management companies. So I'm going to go through kind of different ways you can play the game. So just to kind of give you, magnitudes of material that go into a typical 60 kilograms of lithium, 20 kilograms of cobalt, and 20 kilograms of nickel. And that gives you kind of the core metals to play the lithium battery value chain.
Okay, Dan, I hate to ask you to do this, but we lost you for a minute there. Sorry, but could you run through that again?
Oh yeah, for sure. So if you look what a typical Tesla battery consumes, you're looking at 70 kilograms of graphite, 60 kilograms of lithium, 20 kilograms of cobalt, and 20 kilograms of nickel. So the way to play it is you look along that material value chain, and I'll go through some stock picks, and you look at the producers of those materials, the battery makers, and also the battery management companies.
Yeah, and this underscores why I wanted to do this segment, and I think it's especially important for all of us out there, especially those of us investing in EV stocks. Shout out Ford. It's my stock of the year. Let's go. But it's like we talk about lithium, right? As a group, as like a retail investor group, we talk about lithium, but we don't talk about these other materials, these other parts of the supply chain. And again, if you're just joining us, that underscores why I think this segment is important. And Dan, all right, I'm gonna turn it back to you and keep going and explain it for us.
Sounds good. So let's actually take the battery makers. So the battery makers are the guys who actually put all these materials together and sell them on to Tesla or to Ford. So basically, there's 4 big makers out there. There's Panasonic, BYD, LG Chemical, and Clarios. Panasonic is one that I think is really attractive right now. It's trading at 7.5 times EBITDA, 14 times earnings. It's got deals with Tesla, with Toyota, and it pays a dividend, so you got time to wait. If you look at the others, BYD is owned by Buffett. Buffett owns 8.5%. The stock did nothing for about 5 years, and now it's up 4 times in the last 6 months. So I think it's one to wait in that one. It's trading at 72 times earnings. LG Chemical sells into General Motors. It's a Korean stock. I'm not sure you're interested in Korean stocks. Liquidity is not that great. Clarios was owned by Johnson Controls. Clarios is going public later on this year, so keep an eye out for it.
And is that a part of Johnson Controls still now, or is it already spun out and then it'll have an IPO later this year?
It was sold to Johnson Controls for $13.5 billion last year. Brookfield Asset Management, who bought it, is looking at floating it for $20 billion. So they're going to have a nice turn in almost.
Yeah, nice $7 billion 1-year flip. Okay,
that's not bad. Take that every day.
Yeah, not bad. Okay.
So let's look at some of the materials. Okay, so let's look at lithium, which comprises about 60 kgs of any battery cell. There's 2 real ways to play it. There's Albemarle, which is the elephants, and there's Livent, both US traded stocks. I think they've had big runs so far. Livent's trading at about 116 times earnings. Albemarle's 41 times. I think you wait on those until they come back to actually more generous levels. So looking at cobalt nickel, now just to give you an indication.
So those are the battery plays, and now you're going to get into the cobalt and nickel plays.
Yes, so it's Albemarle and Livent are both lithium plays. So they make lithium that goes into batteries. So the other materials I talked about were cobalt and nickel. So if you look at the plays that actually you can play cobalt and nickel, there's Glencore, which is the biggest cobalt producer in the world. Very attractive multiple, 6 times earnings, pays a 3% dividend. Now, interestingly enough, most of the world's cobalt comes from the Democratic Republic of Congo. So extremely tight supply. The remainder comes from China. So it's a very dynamic, interesting area. So Glencore and the cobalt nickel, I think, is interesting. Vale, which actually has a large portion of its earnings from
and
cobalt.
Yeah, if you have the tickers ready, can you give them to us as you're going through it? Or if not, producer AB, drop them in the chat, please.
Oh, for sure. Vale, which is VALE, 6.3 times earnings, 7% dividend yield. I think a great way to play it also. Now, the spherical graphite market, graphite represents about 70 kilograms of weight in a typical Tesla battery, typical kind of lithium-ion battery. So for just an overt kind of push on the business that I'm involved with, Earth Asia, which has changed its name to Graphics Group, is I think one of the major producers of spherical graphite, which is a special form of graphite that goes in batteries. Listed in Hong Kong and also listed in the US, and so have a look at that one. I think it's a great company to look at. There's a couple of tangential ways to play this also. The semiconductor companies are particularly interesting. So we have all these battery cells together. You've got to manage them and manage their voltage across. And then if you get a bad cell, you need to shut it down. So Sensata, which is a US-listed semiconductor company, makes the management chips that actually manage the battery cells. $8.6 billion market cap. It looks great technically. And if you're looking at a pair trade, you may want to look at MELE, which is Melexis in Europe, which actually is a similar sensor manufacturer but has very little content in EVs. So you want to play an EV player, ST is the player on the semiconductor side. If you want to balance it with a pair trade, look at Mealy on the short side.
All right. So Dan, I didn't even preview you with this, but the whole point of the show, beyond sort of the gimmicks that we like to do and some of the charades, is to make this the idea place. That's what we're going for. And you just dropped us like 20 stocks, all a part of that EV supply chain in like 5 minutes. That was pretty impressive.
So Luke, if you're a long-term holder, I mean, there's going to be volatility in this sector, as you know. It's going bonkers.
Yep.
But if you've got the fortitude to hold a basket of these stocks long-term, you're going to be in a great position. Because you imagine you've got a situation where EVs are 4% of the global supply. Fast forward 20 years, it's going to be 50 or 60. So every single one of these names should participate in that tailwind.
Absolutely. And if you had to pick one part of the supply chain which you think is least appreciated thus far, what would it be?
So I think if you go down to some of the miners, the producers of the material, and that includes Glencore, Vale, Earth Asia Graphics Group. So those are so if you look, actually, those guys have been underappreciated. So the companies that are closer to the top of the food chain. So Tesla, NIO, some of the big battery makers like BYD. So the market is kind of buying these companies that are at the top of the food chain, and the guys all the way along the food chain haven't caught up yet.
Yep. NIO price update, $37. we just took a crack at that one right before you joined, Dan.
Oh yeah, I saw, and some of those. And Tesla, Tesla has a big lead. I mean, it's going to be tough to catch up to it. It's an expensive stock, but it's leading the market. And
so you're in the industry. So let me ask you this. I mean, so some of these traditional automakers, and let's get some charts up here on the screen. But like here's a Tesla. We're gonna pull up a 1-year chart on this thing. I mean, it's obviously been an absolute tear over the past 12 months. But some of these traditional automakers, like in the US, we've got a Ford and a General Motors and those sorts of companies. I mean, how much of a shot do they have? How developed are their technologies actually, et cetera?
Well, if you look at the battery technology, first of all, Tesla is in a very close relationship with Panasonic, which is probably the leading technology. And in fact, Panasonic has invested more in the Gigafactory than Tesla has.
Wow.
So they're on the bleeding edge of it. They're on the absolute bleeding edge. Now, where I think, and eventually they'll catch up, but where Tesla is really far ahead is its network of superchargers. And so just living in Europe and driving an electric car myself, I couldn't imagine not using a supercharger network, and it will take years for the other automakers to catch up. So Tesla has a strong lead. I mean, whether its valuation is right, that's the big question. But it certainly is way ahead of the peer group.
Yeah, and guys, check this out. So again, this is a 1-year Tesla chart we have up on the screen. Each candle here is 1 day. I actually looked this up this morning. So I don't know if everybody recalls, but on May 1st, 2020, Elon Musk tweeted that the share price of Tesla is overvalued, that the stock is overvalued. And I was like, I was looking to see what was the price of Tesla when he tweeted that. And check this out. It was all the way down here, $150. Where we got as high as 900 and are still at 600. So we're still 4x when Musk tweeted that it was overvalued. Does he still feel that way? I have no idea. What was he thinking when he tweeted that? I think none of us actually have any idea. But sort of for fun, that's what the price was when he threw that tweet out last year. And then Dan, I would be too greedy. We would all be too greedy if you just took us through all these tickers, all this supply chain, and you didn't take a chance to tell us about your company, what you guys are doing, etc.
Oh, great, perfect. So I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Graphics Group, and we just changed our name Previously, we were Earth Asia International. So our symbol is on the pink sheet, it's ETIHY in Hong Kong 6128. So what we do, we make a special form of graphite called spherical graphite. The graphite is used by the battery makers to make their graphite anode. So, our material comprises about 70 kilograms of every big battery for a Tesla or Tesla similar. So we're in the value chain, and we're producing about 10,000 metric tons a year. We've just announced expansion that we're going from 10,000 to 40,000 over the next 3 years. And to give you an indication of the market size, about 200,000 metric tons of graphite are produced per year, and currently we're about 10,000 of that.
Awesome. All right, Dan. Well, thank you very much for coming and hanging out with us. It was a blast. Again, I think this conversation is so important because we see so much energy going into these EV manufacturers, right? The companies that are actually building the calls. We hear a lot of talk about lithium. It's like that's the only material that us or a lot of retail investors at least are familiar with. So I appreciate you taking us through the whole supply chain. And again, somebody in the chat's asking what's the ticker of your company? Can you give that to us one more time, please?
Yeah, for sure. It's ETIHY. It's Echo Tango India Hotel.
There we go. Awesome. Peter in the chat helping us out with that ticker. So Dan, thank you very much for joining the Power Hour. Awesome having you on. And again, hopefully, guys, I said at the top of the show, call us out if we're not delivering the ideas. And we just delivered them. And Dan, do you have a Twitter handle or any other way for folks to stay in touch?
I'll drop in the chat.
All right, perfect. He's going to put it in the chat there for us. So, all right.